in my original settings. If I go back to test build, they're now empty. So in order to successfully create my test build, what I would normally do is grab some of my settings, Windows product key being probably the most important one. We'll jump over to our test build, change it to a volume license, paste the key in there, company name remains the same, etc. Now, importantly, always create a new description. Whenever you change your SIF file, change your description, because if you don't, you'll actually get multiple menu items appearing within RIS that all have the same description on them, and you won't be able to tell them apart easily. So in this case, we will now say SOE Framework 2.0 test build, and that will become a new menu item within RIS setup. It's also important to note the information in the SOE tag editor, the one which contains information about your SOE, version number, build details, etc. The information that's stored there is again specific to a particular build directory. So when you create a new build directory, you need to go in and create a new tag, and quite often you would use that tag to actually store information about what differentiates that particular build from the others. So for instance, if I go in there now, typically in my build description, let's say I was creating a build for the computer lab, then I would put down student lab build. And that now becomes the build description, which apart from being stored within the registry of the machine and picked up by RDMC during inventory processes, if you're running our little desktop monitor application, will also appear on the desktop. It gives you a quick way of identifying which SOE build was used to build this particular machine. So always important, update your build description, that way you can tell apart which build was used to start with. Now, I've also mentioned that there will be circumstances in which you want to have multiple operating systems using the same application set. And from this point of view, you'll note when I pull down the build directory, I get a list of all of the build directories I've created. When I pull down SIF file, I only get two options. The reason for this is that the SIF file is specific to a particular base operating system. So I've selected this particular Windows XP Service Pack 3 install. I've created two SIFs for that one. I've got others. If I select one of the other Service Pack 3 or Service Pack 2 builds, I will only see the SIF files that apply to those specific ones. However, if the only thing I want to change is the base build, because I'm using either a different base operating system or service pack level, then what I may very well do is say, okay, I will now use my test build SIF file, but I actually want to use the same build directory that I created for something else. So we'll say go for our HP application build. So this way it allows you again to maintain a single list of application settings, a single build script, but at the same time have multiple different SOE builds sharing that script. Now in this particular case, I will switch it back to the test build, which is the one we've just created, and save my configuration. Okay, step 2, quite easy, is creating your application script, creating your application install script. So for that, we go into the framework scripting tool, which we've looked at before and is quite straightforward. Now you'll notice here we have SOE build in the pull-down list. And basically all we need to do is create our build. So the last one that we created, test build, is now in the list, and of course because we haven't actually added any applications to it, it's currently empty, and from there we can now create our specific application build list that we want for this SOE. And so we'll drop in all of those, and we'll drop in Adobe Reader and Visio Viewer, the SOESoft dashboard, cleanup, the usual things that we would add into a build, scripting commands, the all-important restart near the end. And right now, from within the scripting tool, I can quite easily jump back and forth and look at the particular application set that I've applied to each SOE build. So again, if we look at our, for instance, HP framework build, you'll find it's a very, very simple build. We've only included the dashboard, the reboot, and the SOE cleanup script, and that goes for quite a few. But again, we go back to our test build, and we'll see the full application set that we have just put together there. So in effect, what's going to happen is, by creating this additional build directory and by specifying a new description for our SOE and a new SIF file to go through it, what we've done in effect is created a new menu item within RIS, so that when you go to build your machine, you can select that menu item, and that will determine the full application set that gets deployed on the machine, as well as allowing you to customize which service pack and potentially which base operating system is being installed. Now, I should mention that what we're looking at the moment is the SOE Framework version 2, which is the latest currently released version. Very shortly, we will be releasing version 2.5. Version 2.5 will be significantly different in that it also supports Vista and Windows 7 as operating system builds, including both the 32 and 64-bit varieties as well. Now the important thing is going to be that it's going to be extremely similar to what you see here, in that the same options will still be present, and because, for example, I can take my current Windows XP Service Pack 2 build and turn it into a Service Pack 3 build, in effect simply by selecting Service Pack 3 as a base operating system, creating a zip file for it, but then pointing it to an existing build directory. We can now also do the same with Windows Vista and Windows 7. It essentially gives you a one-button upgrade. What you'll do is if you wanted to migrate your existing SOE over to Windows 7, you would simply go into your base operating system list, select Windows 7, create a profile for it. Those options will be slightly different because zip files no longer exist, but that will be demonstrated close to release. And again, point it back to the same build directory that you use for XP, and you've effectively converted your Windows XP build directly into a Windows 7 build. Of course, if you do that, you would want to do things such as rebuilding your default profile and changing the background, but as you can see, it's a very, very quick and easy way to perform an upgrade if that's what you want to do. In addition, of course, if you want your application sets to be different, you would then create a new build directory for your Windows 7 build and drop the applications into place. Basically, that's pretty much what we needed to cover from the point of view of the topic. However, being an advanced topic, I would hope that there would be more questions involved. So I'll open up the microphones now. If you've got any questions either relating to multiple builds or just anything to do with the framework at all, then please jump in. No takers at all. The silence is deafening. Okay. Well, if we don't have any questions, I hope this has been informative. Hopefully not too muddled. This is, as I mentioned before, one of the more advanced topics with the SOE framework. It is something that a lot of people do, and as you can see from what I've shown, it's actually very quick and easy to do, but it's important to have a basic understanding, of course, of what it actually involves, why you would use it, etc., in order to be able to get the most out of it. So in that case, still no questions, so thank you very much for joining us.
One question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a menu for this framework?
Absolutely. When you install the framework, the documentation is installed along with it. So I'll have to just double check and see if I've got it. Should have it here. But yeah, it does have a help file along with it, which covers all of these topics as well, of course. Yep, you can see here under the Start menu, SOE framework, and that opens up in Windows Help. Yep, there's information here, including basic instructions on how to get RIS set up, which is important because, of course, you can't use the framework until RIS has been set up and installed on the server, and sort of all of the information about how to use the interface, etc. Now, obviously, all of this will be changing in version 2.5 to support Windows 7, but at least under the current test builds that I've got of 2.5, the basic interface hasn't really changed much. I've tried to keep it as close as I can to what we've already got, because obviously it makes it much easier for people to make the migration to Windows 7 without making big changes.
Okay.
Anything else? Anyone else got any questions? Okay.
Not really in framework. Do you have something like another product of your company? What they call it?
RDMC? Yep.
Yeah, RDMC.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I rather to learn about RDMC.
Oh, okay. All right. We've done a number of webinars so far on RDMC, and those have all been recorded and placed on the website, so it is a good place to start because I think all but one of the previous webinars has been centred around RDMC, the fourth one being the less advanced one on the SOE framework. Just to summarise quickly, they are both separate products, but they work very closely together. The SOE framework is used to